Welcome to the Pregnancy Help Podcast. I'm Christine Grimmett, and since it is February and Valentine's Day is around the corner, we're seeing it advertised everywhere, we thought it appropriate to share an episode with you all on living out relationships in the way that God has intended for us. So I know a lot of our listeners work directly with young women to empower them to make healthy choices in their relationships. So in this episode, our Director of Affiliate Services, Beth Diemert, has invited Dr. Joe Malone to talk to us about showing them the power that they hold to unhook from the hookup culture. Dr. Joe was in a previous podcast episode titled Tools to Reach More Clients with a Message of Sexual Integrity last August. He has also done a 6-week course on human sexual wellness for Heartbeat Academy. He did that late last year, and he's working on another 6-week course for us. So stay tuned to Heartbeat Academy through our e-newsletters and on heartbeatservices.org for more on that and some of our other training opportunities through Heartbeat Academy. So with that, welcome, Beth and Dr. Joe. It's great to have you with us today.
Thanks so much, Christine. We always appreciate your warm welcome, and we're so glad to be here. Dr. Joe, you are just becoming a regular, and I love that. I know that our listeners are getting more and more familiar with you and what you bring to the table, and today is going to be a next step in that direction that I know will not disappoint. So happy Valentine's Day, by the way.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the honor of being here with you, both Christine and Beth. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You know, Valentine's Day starts your path kind of thinking in one direction, you know, love, romance, right? It is that holiday. And of course, in our pregnancy help world, that's a topic that we deal with a lot. You know, in dealing with our clients and trying to talk to them about these kinds of topics, you know, I often see that our clients are really looking for that romance, looking for that true love. And unfortunately, often what causes them to visit us is that they're not really finding that. They're finding a little bit more of disaster than what they're looking for. You know, I know that that's happening because they live in a culture that's tough, no doubt about it. And word on the street is that clients are really getting a little fed up with the culture that they're living in, and particularly hookup culture. They're kind of sick of it, to be honest. I know that you shared some recent article with me that you wrote, and I want to glean from this article in our conversation today, talking about hookup culture. You say women are sick of hookup culture and are beginning to demand the return of romance and respect between the sexes. Talk to me about that a little bit. Why do you think this is the current trend?
Well, to give it just a little background for those who might not know, I created an all-women's college wellness program at the place I used to teach. And so I started learning about this back then and ended up doing my dissertation around it somewhat, and then I wrote a book about it. So that's where I get my background and expertise on it. In interviewing them, this is, again, 2014 to 2017, 2018, and beyond. Actually, I've done interviews beyond. I started getting that. Not started, actually, that kind of jumped right out of their mouths and toward me. And there was a lot of emotion with it when it was shared, because these young women's hearts had been broken, not just once, but many, many times. And I started looking into it and finding out what this hookup culture was all about. And what I found was, again, I was an undergraduate way back when, but even since the 1990s and early 2000s, things had changed radically toward a situation where the idea was not to have any kind of relationship with the person. The less emotion involved, the better. And, have sex within that, and then just maybe never even see each other again or never contact each other. This was really leaving these young women emotionally scarred, damaged, you could say, in many ways. Their depression was high, their anxiety was high. And when I started looking into it, when I started researching it, from there, kind of looking back, in 2005, when this one dating site called OkCupid, they started from, that's when they began. they were surveying their customers from 2005 forward, and all the way from 2005 up to 2016, the answers to questions around the idea of would you have sex with somebody on a first date, and all the things that are lean in the sexualized direction were going in that direction. They were getting more and more sexualized in their answers. But about 2016, that trend started going the other way. And it was pretty sharp, and especially with young women. And the young women particularly were saying no, they would not want to take part in a casual sex situation. They prefer romance, and they wanted to find somebody that would provide real love and maybe a future marriage, in the situation. So, and then my research went into, the human origins of relationships and that type of thing. And come to find out, it's been, about for the last 2 million years, if you look at it scientifically, the human race has been what we call pair bonding in science. Now we call it marrying. And it's really what our species is built around. So what it comes down to, Beth, is that women in our society are being asked to go against their sexual natures. And so their sexual nature is to find somebody and bond with them and get married and have a family and, live happily ever after, as they say. But we've got this situation with hookup culture that is really, really rubbing them the wrong way, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, just makes a lot of sense. And I think we find affirmation in that with the women that come and visit us in pregnancy centers. A lot of them expressing their disappointment and not wanting to be involved in certain behaviors. And it's interesting because I think out of that research, 2017, Harvard University, this was 3,000 young adults and high school students that they were speaking to. The findings were that a large majority of young adults are overestimating how many other young people are hooking up. Isn't that fascinating? Because it's the idea that everybody's doing it and I have to do it too. And particularly as a female, I think it's the way that I'm going to find what I'm looking for. But actually, women are actually kind of shooting themselves in the foot, working against themselves. Yes. Because, as you said, the science, the way they're created, is not lending itself towards their behavior. And the idea of, I think if I give sex to get love, that's what I'm going to find. But that doesn't necessarily happen. Let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yes, you're exactly right. And it's scary because a couple of the young women I've dealt with literally told me that their parents, one was a mother, one was a father. And in both those cases, the mother and father had broken up their individual marriage by cheating on their spouse. But they were telling their daughter that she would never get a guy, without having sex with him first. And that's, as you were saying, that's the furthest thing from the truth. Actually, and this is an important statement for your listeners, for our listeners to really, really absorb. What the research has shown, again, this is against the backdrop of the sexual nature I just described for the last long period of time, back in the prehistory of pair bonding and marriage. The shorter time to sex in a relationship means the relationship will last shorter. It'll be the shorter time to sex, the shorter the relationship, I guess you'd say. Okay, I'll put it that way. The shorter time to sex in a relationship, the shorter the relationship on average. So it's actually really the opposite as far as young men and young women bonding. It's really the way the young men's biochemistry works is it really throws a monkey wrench, so to speak, in the works. If a young woman is quote unquote easy with him, and let's say they have sex even on the second date. Okay. What happens in the brain of the young man is his bonding mechanism is more complex than hers. And there's a biochemical called vasopressin that in his brain, if it's allowed to stay in his brain long enough, it creates receptors for it. And it's the main male bonding biochemical. But what happens is if they have sex soon after they start getting to know each other, start dating, that type of thing, the orgasm, the chemicals from the orgasm wash that vasopressin out. And so what's required is a romantic relationship, a chaste relationship, a courtship type of relationship where they're together, they're attracted to each other. He thinks she's the best thing in the world. And again, he's opening the door for her. He's buying her dinner and all of that. And they're around each other for a long time. It's months and months, actually, this takes to accomplish. And eventually when they haven't had sex to orgasm, particularly, his vasopressin supply will have been in his brain long enough that the receptors will be built and that molecule will dock. It'll dock in that receptor. Then he bonds with her. He falls in love would be the way we would put it. And she becomes his girl. He starts showing that, he's not going to want just anybody else to be with her and that type of thing. There's a little bit of possessiveness there, but that is how men fall in love. And that's how this old school courting and dating process worked so much more successfully than we have now. There's a second stage to a male's bonding in this process, and it's the oxytocin stage. So once the vasopressin docking happens, his testosterone levels start dropping dramatically. And so once he's committed, his testosterone starts dropping dramatically. Normally, testosterone, if it's high, will interfere with oxytocin, which is the main female bonding biochemical. And also, it's present in males too. So when his testosterone drops because of the vasopressin docking and because of the months and months and months, at least, of chaste dating and that type of thing, again, old school, then the second stage of the process will happen where he will bond to her oxytocin wise as well. And so it turns out to be a very, very strong bond, a 2-stage bond. And just for the whoever's listening, probably a lot of young women, their information, their bonding process is the only 1 stage, and it isn't interfered with by sex to orgasm. So it just takes dopamine and oxytocin for a woman to bond to a man. So they bond readily, in a sexual situation, and they're, fall in love. And so when you have you have them falling in love, the women, you have the men not falling in love, but, being ready for the next Tinder, swipe or whatever. You have a real bad situation because the men, it's bad for them because they never commit. They never get out of this. We could just kind of call it an addiction, a dopamine, testosterone addiction, basically. And the women, it breaks their hearts and tears them all up and everything. So again, if we had a formula for destructiveness for youth and young adults, it would be something like this. If we've tried to think up something destructive as far as their life goes and to get them all messed up, we would create something like hookup culture. So I guess that's the message, is the old school in this case is the best school. And we need to get back to that kind of a approach. And the young women, again, need to understand that the quicker, sooner to sex, the sooner the relationship ends. Let's put it that way, on average. So yeah, you're not going to get anybody permanent that way. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so essentially what you're saying is like we just saw with this Harvard study, what we think is not necessarily truth. We're being swayed by culture. We're being influenced by the way we think it's supposed to be. And we're actually working against ourselves as females in particular. We think, again, it's the idea you have to give sex to get love, but that's counterproductive to what you're trying to do. It's amazing to me. And, when it comes to women who come into pregnancy help and they're looking for that true love and romance and relationship and someone to really cherish them, they think that's the way to get there. And that's not the case. And you and I, as we've been working on things together, I've heard you reference this as the woman's superpower, right?
Yeah.
I love that. We have a superpower to get what it is that we're really looking for. And it really takes education to understand how to put that superpower in place and not work against yourself, right? The vasopressin thing is just amazing to me. The idea that, again, you think that you're giving something that's going to cause that bonding, and it's actually causing the bonding not to happen. Just unbelievable.
Yes. As a matter of fact, here's the other thing I'll add on to that. Unlike women, again, this is just, on population average, men have a tendency, especially the ones that are sexually active. And again, you probably picture the alpha male type, which a lot of women are attracted to. They're the ones that they'd like to be able to connect with. They have an automatic assessment of women. And the way they assess them is, okay, this woman, she was easy to have sex with. She's for a good time only, basically. And then the ones that aren't easy to access sex with, they're the ones that go into the marriageable bin, so to speak, the section. So it's actually really, really straight out, the way men, not all men, but again, especially the ones that are the high testosterone and alpha male types, they will have a tendency to automatically categorize. As a matter of fact, it's so bad, Beth, that I'm a young man let's say the situation happens that he picks up this girl and on the first date, they have sex and that type of thing. Before they have sex, his evaluation of her as, beautiful woman is going up. And actually within about 10 seconds after they have sex and he has orgasm, it's going down, his evaluation of her looks and what he thinks of her and everything else. Now, again, ironically, on the other side, in the studies they've done on this, the woman's evaluation of him is going up after they've had sex. So she's thinking he's the greatest thing, and she wants to bond. She wants to bond with him and have a life together. And it's just really, really ugly, the way it really, really is. And again, these sex differences, a lot of people try to deny or they want to deny, but they're there for a large swath of both sexes. I don't want to say that every woman is like this and every man is like this, but the stats are, again, ballpark figures. About 80% of men will take sex if it's available to them in as much of a quantity as they can get. In other words, many, many women. 20% of men, the most intelligent 20% they found, which I think is interesting, will not. They want to bond exclusively like the women do. On the other side of it, 20%, again, ballpark figures, probably less than this, but 20% of women would like to be promiscuous like the guys, the 80% of the guys would like to. 80% of women want what we're talking about as far as the romance and true love. So, yeah, it's really a messed up situation. And one other quick thing on your great comment earlier about the Harvard talk study. Yeah, there's this misperception. They call it pluralistic ignorance. They actually have a scientific name for it, where you think everybody else is doing it and they aren't. It's just here's the stats on it. And your typical college campus, 30% of the people are not having sex at all. So 30% are not having sex at all. The top 15% of the men and women, the ones I was talking about that want to go this way, in a hard way, a big way, they're having 50%, round figures, 50% of the sex, sexual, encounters. So a small minority at the top is having a ton of sex with a ton of different people. And then the rest of about 55%, they're the ones that think everybody else is having sex. They think everybody's living like the top, that top 15% that are promiscuous. So it's a mess. About 85% of them are really not sexually active unless they think they need to be because of somebody else doing it. If that makes sense, it's just what you were describing earlier.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it also gives us tremendous opportunity within our pregnancy help community to educate and to share these things with young women so that they can make better choices. I don't mean to be so euphoric about that, but that's really what it does come down to, right? Is understanding and knowledge, understanding how their body works, how the man's body works, and how they can work in sync with that instead of against that, to again get what it is that they're truly looking for and hoping for long range, which is a committed relationship where they truly are cherished and loved and protected. And that kind of leads us to the whole marriage subject, right? It's another thing within our society that seems to be diminishing to some degree. I think I shared with you previously that I was watching daytime television and they sort of polled the audience for the importance of marriage. And most of the people in the audience were women. They were sort of middle-aged. They had kind of experienced all of these things. And they definitely expressed the idea that they wanted a relationship, but they didn't want to be married. And I know that you've written an article for us that I'm really excited that we're publishing this week also on marriage and the benefits of marriage. So it's what everyone's looking for. It has great benefit to it. And it's really a matter of helping women to understand you can have what it is you're looking for. And it works because it works
Correct.
with the way you were created,
exactly.
right?
And again, it goes with the grain. I said, hookup culture is women going against the grain, the vast majority of them going against the grain. It's very much going with the grain. It's really the way God created us. And if you think about it, I mean, even scientifically, think about scientifically, a few quick facts. Our species has by far the longest time to maturity of our children, of our babies and then our children. We need parents involved for 15, 20, even beyond, 20, 21, 22, 25, even 25 is when the human brain finally matures. The human brain is so special in creation. And again, it's 3 times as big as the next primate proportionally. It's 5 times as big as the typical animal that would be the same size. It takes a long time, even though it's pretty big when we're born, it takes a long time for the connections to be built in it and for it to grow to 3 times its size it was when you're born. And it makes our young the most vulnerable in creation of all the species. So us having a mother and a father working together to raise a child or maybe several children like it used to be in the past is crucial. It's crucial because that advantage, no matter what the government does, between birth and 5 years old, huge strides are made or they're not made, by the child. And having a mother and a father working together and, tending those children's needs, giving them all the emotional support that they need. Again, kids, by the time they get to first grade or kindergarten or even pre-K, they're way behind the others that have had what we're talking about. And what we're talking about comes from a great marriage, a marriage where 2 people love each other and they're going with those natural tendencies that I'm talking about. And especially the man is appreciating the woman for the beautiful creature that she is and all the gifts that she's been given, especially in the area of, taking care of kids and nurturing and that type of thing. And he has gifts as well. And actually, marriage, it's another superpower to some degree because marriage makes men into harder workers, more responsible, less prone to get into trouble with the law. You compare a 15 to 25-year-old male that's unmarried and has come from a background that doesn't have 2 parents in the home to one who's, between 15 and 25. And I'm going to say, the bad word, I'm going to use the M word, the marriage. He's married, let's say, 15 to 25 years old. Everybody thinks that's too early. But anyway, I was married at 20 and my wife was 19 when we were married. And it didn't stop us. It didn't seem to stop us from accomplishing what we wanted to do. But if he's married, he has so much greater chance of being successful and not getting into trouble with the law, not getting into drugs, not getting into all the different things that young men, the trouble they can get into, and also not getting killed because most of the people killed with guns, and we hear a lot about this, guns and that type of thing, accidents. Let me just give it to you. A young man versus a young woman, 15 to 25 years old, has approximately 4 times greater chance of dying through addiction, overdose that way, car accidents, murder, or suicide. So all of those ways, a young man has a 4 times greater chance of dying. That's single. Ones that are married are pretty much immune from that. So, and again, it helps the woman extremely. So it's really a win-win situation. I mean, you really can't think of any downside to it other than, a marriage that goes bad and there's abuse and that type of thing. So, and really marriage, I'm going to get in my soapbox here. Marriage will help fix our society too, because, I don't know if you have heard this, you probably have, but the birth rate's been dropping precipitously, for the last 15, 20 years all over the world. And women, what they're finding out is that women, it isn't so much that the women are having babies and kind of always had babies, they're in the past in their family. They're not so much having less babies. What's happening is the women, some of them are not, there's actually 30% of them that aren't having babies at all. 30% aren't having babies at all. So, and that's related to marriage because married women have babies at twice the rate that unmarried women do. So all that said, you can kind of see that even in our society, not only individuals, not only couples, not only children from those couples, but the entire society, and not only our society, but the whole world society, because it's happening all over the world, is endangered by this, because they call it demographic collapse. And what they mean by that is we getting way too many older people, that stop working at some point, need support and that type of thing. Way too few young people that are, working and active in that way to support them. And that's when you get the demographic crash coming down. So I know it's a big answer, but I'm passionate, as you can tell, about this. And marriage just solves a lot of problems.
Yeah. And again, I mean, when we think about the love holiday and Valentine's Day and true love and romance and what are people ultimately looking for, that whole path points to marriage, right? A committed relationship, someone that's going to be faithful and someone that's going to bring all those benefits, those scientific benefits that you talk about in your article, into that relationship, as well as the emotional benefits as well. And again, I mean, we have such an incredible opportunity to educate and to inspire and to point people in the direction that works with the grain of their creation, not against their grain, and help them to find what they're really looking for. That superpower is something that we need to shout from the rooftops and empower women with their superpower and have them not work against themselves. And so, as we conclude here today, Dr. Joe, what do you think the greatest message we could deliver to a young woman in 2023 who's looking for true love and marriage? What do we need to say to her?
Well,
what do we need to teach her?
A lot of the ingredients of what we've been talking about in this conversation, that she has this superpower that's been unbeknownst to her, and that society tries to tell her just the opposite and tries to portray images of everything besides that, and tries to push her in a sexualized direction. I would say to try to tell her that her instincts is one way to look at it. Her intelligence, sexual intelligence is another way to look at it, are correct. And I would have us caution her and them that there are times when, in circumstances, when young women can be put into situations where they're not going to follow that instinct as well as they would otherwise. Again, young women they're built for this because they have so much less. I mean, young men have about 20 times more testosterone, which is, again, the sex drive hormone. I won't go into the details, but they have much less of this. Young men have much less of this other hormone called SHBG, which absorbs free testosterone, for one thing. And so men are supercharged for sex. Women are normally built to be able to resist it resist getting into it if they want to. Out of 3 million sexually reproducing species on Earth, human women are the only ones that can override their ovulatory signal. So they're built for it normally. Here's the places that they're not. This is where I would warn them that they may get into something that they didn't intend to. Alcohol raises women's testosterone levels. Now, it raises men's a little bit too, but men already have so much, it doesn't really so much matter. Plus, men's brains are configured, they're twice as big of a sex drive area in the brain, sexual pursuit. Women are normally in control. I would even say that when it comes to sex, women are the stronger sex because they have the willpower to walk away from a situation that maybe a man wouldn't necessarily have. But if she's drunk, or even just a little bit, drinking a little bit of alcohol, it really pops her testosterone levels up. And she's not used to that. A woman isn't used to having higher testosterone levels. So she's not used to the kind of discipline you have to walk away from something that's sexually enticing. Also, it inhibits her frontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that helps to shut down things that we know aren't good for us. So add in one more thing. If she's aware of her cycle and where she is in her cycle, if she's not on birth control pills, because that interferes, hormonal birth control, that interferes with the whole cycle situation. at her mid-cycle. Let's just say, day one is the start of her period. And let's say from day 8 to about day 14 on your typical 28-day cycle. Right in that window, they call it the fertile window, or the ovulatory window. If she's drinking and she's in that window, it's really going to supercharge her sex drive higher than it would be normally. I think that's why, college parties involve so much alcohol, and, it's not for the guys necessarily. It's for the guys giving it to the women, and the women need to be aware of that. So there are places and dangers where, it can happen where women don't end up doing something that would be uncharacteristic of them. But that's probably the main one that I can think of. So I would warn them about that. I would encourage them to go down the pathway of no sex until marriage, and then also minimizing any kind of alcohol lifestyle. And I think they would be fine after that. And I mean, they've got what the men want. They've got they've got all the bargaining power. So, and knowing that men are downgrading them if they are sexually active with them, I think that women, you said it earlier, I can't agree more. We need to shout this from the rooftops. And the vasopressin, the way that system works, it's just crazy that young women are selling themselves short like this. And not only that, I mean, you get into the STDs and all of that. I mean, the women have twice of a chance of having STDs, a pregnancy. They have all the chance of getting pregnant. There's just every way you look at it from the casual sex angle, they lose. It's a lose situation. So I don't know. Is that strong enough of a of a message?
That's pretty strong. It is pretty much what I would hope for, because it's for the purpose of getting her exactly what she is looking for, what she wants, and the thing that is going to make her happy and fulfilled in life. And that's what it's all about. It's not about prohibition. It's not about denial. It's about empowering her to be the strong woman that she can be in order to get the things that her heart longs for. And there's no time like Valentine's Day to bring it out in the open. So again, I just thank you for all your wisdom, for your willingness to share it with others. We're going to continue to walk down this path of developing good material that our centers can use and educate more and more on the things we've talked about today. We're looking forward to having you with us in April in Louisville at the Heartbeat Conference, doing a whole in-depth day training on this subject. And then there's more to come after that. So Dr. Joe Malone, the sexual integrity scientist, we're grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you guys, and I'm so admire, this whole cause that we're part of, because to me, it's the noblest cause that there ever could be. So I'm just such an admirer. I'm so humbled that I can be part of it. Thank you so much.
You make a great team. Thanks, Christine. We'll turn it back to you.
Thanks so much. Again, that in-depth day training at our Heartbeat Conference happening in April. You can find out more about that. Dr. Joe will be teaching with Lori Kirkendall, and they are doing a full day of training. You can find out more, register at heartbeatservices.org. With that, we wish everyone a great Valentine's Day, and thanks for listening to this episode of the Pregnancy Help Podcast.